Thank you very much, Professor Nalapat. I seriously don't match the kind of experience and domain knowledge of this entire panel combined. So, Major General Asthana and General Sharma have elaborated in much greater detail from their experience and, of course, immense knowledge about the terror groups, the internal challenges, the mistakes committed in the past, and how those mistakes need not be repeated, and consistency shown in our behavior in some way. So I'll just take this forward, and I promise you that I will finish within 20 minutes. I'll try my best. So I am a Kashmiri Pandit myself, and I am a conflict journalist. So I see this from multiple perspectives. I see this from the knowledge and the experiences of the locals out there, and I see this from the experiences and the chatter that I have with the security forces or the intelligence agencies or the politicians that have been down there on ground. Uh, of course, we can go into history and we should go into history to learn and unlearn about the mistakes of the past, about what really happened. History cannot be ignored, certainly. But I think the key issue is what's happening in the present. The key issue is the rise has happened over the last 3 decades, as was mentioned by General Sharma. But what about the decline? Has the fall really happened, or will the fall really happen in the coming days? Is the question. I suspect the fall, unfortunately, is far from over at this stage. It is a long battle. Since the abrogation of Article 370 on the 5th August 2019, a lot has changed. In fact, I would say ever since 2017, because 2017 was very much important for Jammu and Kashmir because of the approach that the government took. It gave a free hand to the National Investigative Agency to go all guns blazing against the radical separatist outfits, including the Hurriyat Conference and the JKLF. Later, in early 2019, we saw Jamaat-e-Islami, which predominantly is very active in South Kashmir, being banned. We also saw Jammu Kashmir Liberation Front, JKLF, being banned. Now imagine, uh, there have been mistakes committed. One such has been with JKLF. I'll go point by point. Now, the JKLF, Jammu Kashmir Liberation Front, has been active for decades together in Pakistan occupied Kashmir under Amanullah Khan, who was the father in law of Sajad Lone. And of course, here in India, there was, of course, the Haji group. And apart from that, Yasin Malik, Bitta Karate, Javed Mir, and others who were actively involved in atrocities and targeted assassinations of Kashmiri Hindu minority and also security forces ever since 1990. Yasin Malik, particularly, was also involved with two historic events that happened in Kashmir in 1990-91, which we still remember, we go back to, but there's no sense of justice. One such event is the kidnapping of Rubia Saeed, the daughter of then Home Minister of India, Mufti Mohammad Saeed. Another incident was the killing of 4 unarmed Indian Air Force officers that happened there in Kashmir, who were standing at a bus stop in Rawalpura area of Srinagar. And it's been 32 years, but there's no sense of justice. Now imagine anywhere else in the world where a terrorist has openly admitted on BBC, speaking with Tim Sebastian on Hard Talk, that he has killed these Indian Air Force officers. But for the last 32 years in Jammu Special Tada Court, the cases have been pending. There's absolutely no sense of justice. So there haven't been, strong action that has been taken by the government of India or the security agencies against these terror groups. Our cyclic, events that have happened in Kashmir is eliminating terrorists. What we have seen over the last 32 years, every year, is that there are new terrorists that come either from across the border in Pakistan or are radicalized and homegrown and indoctrinated in several parts of Kashmir. They're killed, and then the cycle continues, the vicious cycle of recruitment, killing, recruitment, killing, recruitment, killing. Our policy hasn't changed. I mean, our focus has been on killing terrorists, not terrorism. Our policy has been on eliminating them in encounters, but not eliminating radicalization at the grassroots level, which poses the massive challenge ahead of us. I, of course, do not deny the fact that external challenges are there. Pakistan-sponsored terrorism, Jaish-e-Mohammed, Lashkar-e-Toiba, and other groups, including Al-Badr, sending terrorists here, coordinating with the locals, with the overground workers of Hizbul Mujahideen, and coordinating these terror attacks. But since we are talking about a change ever since 2017, the rise and fall, uh, why not change our mindset towards terrorism as well, about our policy in Jammu and Kashmir? I'll go briefly to a historical context also. We have often seen politicians in Kashmir talk and refer to the rigging that took place in 87, 88. They say, of course, that Yusuf Shah, who is now a known terrorist, Sayyid Salahuddin of United Jihad Council, who I had, in fact, also interviewed in 2012, um, he was involved in elections from the Muslim United Front. He was a very educated person. He has studied political science. He can speak fluent English, Urdu, Hindi, and Kashmiri. And he had contested elections. Interestingly, Yasin Malik, who later became a terrorist and right now is in Tihar jail, was his polling agent. And of course, there was rigging that happened. National Conference was blamed for it, even today is. And we know what happened in history after that. But nowhere else in India or nowhere else in world do we see a situation where a rigging takes place and the other side, which perhaps has not got justice, picks up arms against its own people, against the constitution, the democracy of the land. So I don't think that we should, in fact, go so deep into some kind of a personal guilt that the rigging led to terrorism. I don't think so. I think rigging was just the last nail, perhaps, in the coffin that led to terrorism. It would have eventually happened. Pakistan perhaps got an idea out of it, and more, I think, propelling strength at that particular moment to conduct radicalization, to conduct arms training of terrorists and youth who went from Kashmir to the other side and then got eliminated in different encounters. Similarly, we've seen political initiatives by the Vajpayee government and the Manmohan Singh government, where the Hurriyat conference has been often invited at the Prime Minister's office and invited to talk. On one hand, the government of India said that we will not have a third-party intervention. We will not, invite any other people apart from the democratic representatives. But here they were inviting the Hurriyat conference, and not just a moderate faction, but all across, people from all styles and corners. So my question really is that when you invite a person like Yasin Malik, who has blood on his hands of not just Kashmiri Pandits, but Indian armed forces, who has openly killed, enjoyed, and perhaps celebrated the killing of Indian armed forces, and you are shaking hands with him and inviting him inside the Prime Minister's office. So my questions on this forum are that, did the Indian intelligence agencies and the Indian, perhaps should I call the deep state, mess up Kashmir completely by giving a long rope to these separatist organizations? Did the Indian intelligence agencies pamper the Hurriyat conference, the JKLF and the likes for too many years that created this mess completely in Jammu and Kashmir? The answer, my friends, is an absolute yes. The policy has been messed up, unfortunately, by certain people of the intelligence agencies who thought that they knew the cure to Kashmir, who thought that these radical representatives of the Hurriyat conference and others were to be used and misused, and that will pave the way for peace and dialogue one day. I don't think so. Where are they today? Most of the leaders of the Hurriyat conference and the Jammu Kashmir Liberation Front are today in prison inside Tihar jail for various reasons, for receiving money through Hawala, through a certain person called Zahoor Ahmad Watali. And there is abundant proof. I mean, politicians have confessed, activists have confessed. There are other, technical intelligence and proofs that have come in of how money was received from Pakistan. And my friends tell me that stone pelting that was prevalent till 2017-18, all across streets of Srinagar, Anantnag, Shopian, Pulwama, etc., why did it vanish completely? Did the people suddenly realize that stone pelting was not, going to help them? I don't think so. I think the money chain, the money supply chain through Hawala ended. And that's what resulted in some kind of peace, some kind of, the street violence ending completely. Because the security forces are still on ground, the youth are also there. Of course, the Jamaat-e-Islami elements, the JKLF elements, and the separatists have been picked up in great numbers. There's hardly anybody apart from perhaps Mirwais Umar Farooq who are free right now. So I think The biggest concern for us right now should be the growing radicalization down on ground. I have had the honor of not just being born in Kashmir, but extensively reporting from Kashmir over the last 10 years. And even though I had threat to my life, I continuously visited South Kashmir as well. In 2019, on the 5th of August, I was there for over 15 days. I spent time in Pulwama, Anantnag, and neighboring districts, and I saw the kind of radical thought process that is unfortunately there in the local villagers who see that come what may, we have to fight India. We have to fight this jihad against India, and we are not Indians. And unfortunately, what happens every Friday after the Friday prayers is that there's a political sermon, there's a political speech that happens, and that political speech tells the youth that their dharma or their religion is actually to fight India. They are not Indians, and they should continuously have this process within them that either through stones or through guns or their voice, they should scuttle India come what may. So this thought process has been there time and again, and the Indian government or the security agencies, unfortunately, haven't done much on the radicalization front. And of course, this is only Kashmir that I'm talking about. We've seen what's happening in Kerala, in Karnataka, in Hyderabad, in neighboring areas, where the ISIS over the last 5 to 6 years gained immense momentum. And I saw when I was in Iraq in 2014 in Baghdad, where some Indians from Kerala elsewhere through Afghanistan had joined the ISIS. And in fact, through Telegram during those days, I got in touch with two of them, and I tried to motivate them and convince them that boss, you're on a wrong path, and please come back, and you're destroying your families. Subsequently, within the next 2 years after that chat, those boys were killed and their families were completely destroyed. They had kids, they had wives, and we know how ISIS actually treats Indians and Pakistanis almost like slaves. They're not given equal status. They are used for sweeping, sanitization work, or cooking food, or just like manual laborers in the ISIS camps all across. So my fear, as I again say, is the biggest reason that will unfortunately haunt us ahead as well is radicalization. And radicalization is continuing in Kashmir. The recruitment is continuing in Kashmir. Certainly, the J&K police needs to be saluted. The Indian Army and the CRPF have done a great job. The so-called, since this is an internal forum, earlier it was spoken that there's a lot of ego battle between security forces. I think we have come over that. We have moved on from that period. There's a lot of cohesive energy, a lot of unity that has been displayed by the security forces down on ground in operations. This was visible after the unfortunate Pulwama attack as well, where the leadership of the Jaish-e-Mohammed, together by the Indian Army, J&K Police, CRPF, the Research and Analysis Wing, and the IB, worked together, and within a span of 100 hours, eliminated the entire leadership of Jaish-e-Mohammed in Kashmir. So if we are willing, if we want to do it, we will certainly do it. And apart from radicalization, one cause of concern that has been in Kashmir is unfortunately the conflict industry, is the conflict entrepreneurship, which I call. And this is not just in the politicians. This is unfortunately in media as well. It's most visible in media, who do not want to get away with the fact that Kashmir is a conflict industry. Whatever story you report and sell it to the international media, you're going to earn well. And that has been the trend there. Unfortunately, a journalist, Fahad Shah, was arrested just 3 or 4 days back. And the Jammu and Kashmir government said that he was involved in anti-national activities and instigating passions in support of terrorism. There's another person called Gohar Gilani, who the J&K police and others have been, searching. So this has been a trend for some time, and there are unfortunately journalists who have been killed in the process as well. Now, there's been over the last 4 to 5 years a new trend, a blog that has come up, Kashmir Fight, which actually names people, activists, lawyers, journalists, and even politicians who are actively involved with the Indian government or the Indian opposition or others, and speaking about India, representing India in Jammu and Kashmir. And one by one, unfortunately, these people are being eliminated. One such journalist you would know was Shujat Bukhari, the editor of the Rising Kashmir. And he was known as someone who went to Dubai and other places, who was involved with the Track 2 dialogue between India and Pakistan. And somewhere down the line, there were some elements in Pakistan who did not like this, and ordered the Lashkar-e-Toiba to eliminate him, that too very close to Lal Chowk at the press enclave. So it's a multi-dimensional problem. I don't see a solution to Kashmir or the fall of terrorism happening anytime soon. What I want and what I do expect is that the government of India should show some kind of consistency. We've seen the agencies of India, perhaps through Gupkar Road and others, handhold politicians in Kashmir. I think this is not going to help in the long run. We know, those people who have watched Kashmir closely, how the PDP was created, and later PDP became the demon, the whole problem for government of India in the Kashmir Valley. Today, a very dynamic, or I would say, the youth president of PDP is behind bars for allegedly supporting terrorists in Pulwama and other areas. 3 days back, he sent me a message from Central Jail in Srinagar saying that, please save me. I want medical aid and I want bail, and I have belief in the Indian democracy. So this will continue to happen, unfortunately, till we do not strike radicalization at its roots, till we end this conflict entrepreneurship, till the Indian agencies also realize that pampering separatists or pampering such elements who do not believe in Indian constitution, Indian sovereignty, and Indian democracy is going to be completely futile. So I think I would end here, and if there are any questions, I'll be happy to take them later. Thank you so much.